Starting off this countdown in no particular order, we have Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson's dad, Charles Harrelson, was an American hitman and organized crime figure. Yes, you heard me correctly. Beloved actor Woody Harrelson had a father who was a cold-blooded killer. He was just 7 at the time when his father first went to prison. It's said that he was responsible for the deaths of at least 20 people. In 1979, that is when Charles committed his biggest kill of all time. He took out a federal judge by the name of Judge John H. Wood Jr. He was the first federal judge to be killed in the 20th century. He was paid $250,000 to kill off this judge. It was because a drug dealer was about to be sentenced by this judge, who was known as Maximum John, because he always gave out really harsh punishments to drug dealers. So he got Charles to knock him off for him. But this landed him behind bars and in solitary confinement. He was there until he was 69 when he died from a heart attack. Obviously, Woody does not want to be defined by his father's actions. In our 9th spot, we have Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin is one of the few actors who actually grew up in a cult. He was born into the commune of Children of God, but when he was 4 years old, his parents managed to escape the cult and move. That's actually why they changed their last name to Phoenix, as it symbolizes rebirth, since they were able to leave this cult and start a new life. Unfortunately, he also lost his brother at a young age. In 1993, his brother River Phoenix died from an overdose. Joaquin witnessed this happen, and he was the one that called 911. In our 8th spot today, we have Phil Lewis. Phil Lewis is best known for his role of Mr. Mosby on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and I freaking love that show. Like, it was honestly my childhood. Well, before his Disney Channel days, he actually killed someone. In December of 1991, Lewis fatally hit a 21-year-old woman. She passed away from her injuries from the hit. It was found that Lewis was driving while intoxicated. His blood alcohol levels were 3 times the legal limit of intoxication. As a result, he was convicted of a DUI as well as manslaughter. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, 2 years probation, and 350 hours of community service. But he managed to only serve 1 year in prison. I guess Disney was able to overlook his past when he auditioned for Mosby on the show. In our 7th spot today, we have Tim Allen. Now, if you look at Tim Allen, you think, aw, he's such a family man. I love Home Improvement and Toy Story. He's a great actor. Wow. Tim Allen actually had quite a dark past before he got into acting. In 1978, Allen was arrested for attempting to traffic more than 650 grams of coke. He was arrested in Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport. Now, he actually would have served a lifetime in prison, but he avoided this by giving police information about other dealers. As a result, his sentence was reduced to 3 to 7 years. He ended up serving 2 years and 4 months in prison and then was granted parole in 1981. I guess that's why they say don't judge a book by its cover, because he looks like a wholesome dad, not a drug trafficker. In our 6th spot, we have Jack Nicholson. In 1974, Time magazine discovered that Jack's sister, June, was actually his mother, not his sister. How wild is that? So June was only 17 when she became pregnant with Jack, and she wasn't married, so her parents agreed to raise the child as their own, with Jane and Lorraine acting like his older sisters. So his parents were actually his grandparents, and his sister Lorraine was his aunt. In regards to his dad, we don't know for sure who is his dad, but some say it was likely June's manager. Other sources claim June really just doesn't know who the father was. By the time Jack found this all out, his mom, June, and his grandma had already passed away. Imagine how that would have changed his life. Like, he was raised on a lie.
At number 5, we have Batman's Batwoman actress, Michelle Pfeiffer. Michelle has not been quiet about her disclosure that she was once an addition to a cult in 2013. Apparently, this group was brought up by 2 personal Hollywood trainers, and they would ritualistically practice breatharianism. The practice stems from one's ability to survive without food or water, and sustain the belief that sunlight was the cure to providing everything the body needed. Michelle spoke with The Telegraph for an interview in 2013 regarding this, where she described how the group worked with weights and put people on diets. According to this interview, Michelle said they wanted sole vegans and were incredibly controlling. Michelle continued by explaining that she wasn't living with the group, but that she was there quite often, and how the group often pressured her to show up more frequently. Michelle said she was paying to be there at the time, so the experience was financially draining, among her other hardships. Lastly, Michelle spoke about how the group's highest state was breatharian. At number 4, we have Academy Award nominated Fatal Attraction actress Glenn Close, who opened up to The Hollywood Reporter in 2014 to reveal her position in her childhood cult, how she escaped the group, and the psychological damage it caused her. Glenn's father, Dr. William, reportedly brought his family to the right-wing religious group Moral Rearmament, or MRA for short, when Glenn was merely 7 years old. Quote, "For years, I wouldn't trust any of my instincts because my beliefs had all been dictated to me. You basically weren't allowed to do anything, or you were made to feel guilty about any unnatural desire. If you talk to anybody who was in a group that basically dictates how you're supposed to live and what you're supposed to say and how you're supposed to feel, from the time you're 7 till the time you're 22, it has a profound impact on you. It's something you have to consciously overcome because all of your trigger points are wrong." At number 3, we have charmed actress Rose McGowan. Similar to Joaquin Phoenix's childhood, Rose expressed how she also spent her early days in the Children of God. Rose's father partook in the Italian chapter of the cult, reportedly located on the outskirts of Florence. But Rose has been extremely vocal in her time so far regarding her experiences and her successful escape. In a People interview, Rose recounted witnessing sexual misconduct as a child while living among the group. "I remember watching how the men were with the women. They were basically there to serve the men sexually. You were allowed to have more than one wife. The women would go to bars as lures and pick up recruits. They called it flirty fishing." For her escape, Rose took to rebelling by burning a wall made of Bibles and negatively responding to anyone who would ask her if she had, quote, "let God into her heart." By the time Rose was 9, she removed herself from the group with her father once it was clearly brought to light that the group encouraged inappropriate relationships between adults and children. At number 2, we have the Arquette family, who disclosed that they were once a part of an unnamed cult started out by a bunch of friends. Actor David Arquette was born and brought up in a Virginia commune where he was living with his sisters Patricia and Rosanna and their parents. Patricia sat down with Oprah in 2011 to explain how said group desired to create a utopian society, where she added that the commune had no bathrooms, electricity, or running water. Patricia also revealed on a WTF with Mark Maron episode that her family parted ways with the commune when the members of the group's true colors began to reveal themselves, where she said, "My dad said you bring the seeds of society with you, so you think this is all a great concept, but then suddenly you realize, oh, that dude has a real anger management problem, and this person is an alcoholic, and this person's greedy, and what are we doing here?" Following their Virginia leave, Patricia touched on the topic of her family's return to Chicago before they finally settled in LA. At number 1, we have the Smith siblings, brother Jaden Smith and sister Willow Smith. While their group is not officially deemed as a technical cult in today's day and age, there have been allegations that both siblings are involved as active members in the Organite Society. According to the group page's Instagram, they are a, quote, "secret society of individuals who create and place Organite to balance Gaia's energy." According to the group page's Instagram, they are a, quote, "secret society of individuals who create and place Organite to balance Gaia's energies." The practice referred to as Gaia in question stems from Greek mythology and is the creator of Earth's personification and the universe, further known as Mother Earth. Both Jaden and Willow have been photographed with the crystallized orgone pyramids, which supposedly dispose of negative energy and instead push out positive vibes. However, according to arguable, believable, or unbelievable reports, the group delves into far more than just their unofficial trademark of good vibes only.
In at number 10, Janet Jackson. It's very rare that a celebrity in Hollywood is able to keep their relationship, or marriage for that matter, under the radar. However, Janet Jackson has been able to keep her multiple marriages and subsequent divorces all a secret from the tabloids. First, she was married to singer-songwriter Renee Elizondo in 1991, and that union remained under wraps until she filed for divorce in 2000. She then managed to keep her next marriage to billionaire Wissam Almana in 2012 a secret as well. This marriage actually really ended up changing Janet. She moved to London and abandoned her look to opt for a more conservative garb in line with Almana's Muslim religion. The couple wed 2 years after they met, and much to everyone's surprise, the then 50-year-old Janet announced that she was pregnant with son Issa, who was born in January of this year. To even greater surprise, Janet then announced her separation from Almana 4 months later. In at number 9, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin is typically all about the laugh, so it's really hard to believe her when she's talking about her late brother, a convicted pedophile. The public first learned about her older brother Kenny in her best-selling autobiography My Life on the D-List, and in the book Kathy spoke about growing up with her brother and how she felt a very violent energy whenever he was around. She even admitted to witnessing him beating up his own wife. What's just as disturbing was when Kathy explained how he was sexually inappropriate with her from the time that she was just a little girl. Ultimately, this shaped the way that she perceived the world and herself as she grew up. Kenny Griffin ended up going to prison and eventually passed away. In at number 8, Rose McGowan. Ever since the beginning of the Time's Up and Me Too movement, actress Rose McGowan has been an outspoken force for change. As a result, she's been very open about her own personal secrets involving mental illness and sexual abuse. Growing up, her life was plagued with pain because her parents belonged to a cult called the Children of God. According to Rose, the members believed in free love, and so she was raised in a commune where mistreating women was just normalized. She even cited that men in the cult would regularly mistreat women and force them to act as servants. In at number 7, Holly Madison. Having frequently visited the Playboy Mansion when she was a 20-year-old college student in Los Angeles, the aspiring actress decided to move into the house a year later in 2001. The Oregon native, who was familiar with Playboy and had been a fan, soon became Hugh Hefner's lead girlfriend, and the two appeared to fall madly in love. Over the course of their 7 years together, their untraditional relationship was followed on the E! Channel series called The Girls Next Door. Holly acted as the loyal wife figure alongside co-stars and fellow girlfriends Kendra and Bridget. However, in a bizarre series of events, Holly left the mansion claiming that Hugh had refused to marry her. That being said, this is exactly how Hef wanted things to appear to the general public. In her memoir titled Down the Rabbit Hole, she spoke openly about their relationship and revealed some deep-rooted secrets that Hugh never wanted us to know. Apparently, he knew that she was unhappy and just ignored her. Upon reflecting on it, she said that even though she gave 7 years of her life, the man could barely have a conversation with her. In at number 6, Melissa Joan Hart. Melissa Joan Hart may be a happily married mother of 3, but during her time as Sabrina the Teenage Witch, she partied like every other Hollywood star. In the 1990s, she appeared to be this squeaky clean actor, but that was just an image put forth by executives. In her tell-all book called Melissa Explains It All, she speaks very openly about all of the secret stories that she had to keep under wraps while acting in Hollywood. In one portion of the book, she says that she experimented with weed, ecstasy, mushrooms, and mescaline for about a year and a half. Looks like her broomstick wasn't the only thing that was getting her high. Am I right? Up top. No? Okay. On top of that, she spilled crazy details about making out with a woman in a limo and then heading to a Maxim photo shoot while still high, then revealing that it was her 3rd or 4th time on ecstasy for this photo shoot. Although all of this bad behavior, she says, is attributed to the bad crowd that she was hanging around with. I think she claimed also that Paris Hilton once offered her cocaine at a party, but obviously she denied.
Number 5, Dax Shepard. The actor, podcast host, and husband of Christian Bale has famously talked about his recovery process. In his podcast, The Armchair Expert, Dax said that he was proud to have been sober from alcohol and for the past 16 years, and that he wanted to be open and honest about his recovery journey in order to help others who might be struggling with active addiction. But talking about it wasn't always easy for him. In fact, earlier this year, he said he initially didn't want to go public with the relapse out of fear of losing his connection with people. The actor also reflected on his rock bottom and how his infamous 2004 interview with Conan O'Brien almost derailed his career entirely. Dax did the pre-interview with Conan while blackout drunk. Quote, "I show up on the show, I don't know what he's talking about, I can tell he's queuing me up for stories I've told, but I don't know any of the stories, so I'm just doing what I can to be funny out there and I am a mess." During the interview, he noticeably slurred his words before falling off the side of his chair and accidentally flipping the coffee table that was in front of him. But he's come a long way since then and now uses his experience to talk openly about addiction and sobriety in a way that is both funny and relatable. Number 4, Jamie Campbell Bower. The 33-year-old British actor began his ascent to fame in Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street in 2007 alongside Johnny Depp. He was then cast in Twilight New Moon as the ancient leader Caius and starred as a young Gellert Grindelwald in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 the following year. Today, Jamie is best known for playing the villain Vecna in Series 4 of Stranger Things, but has since revealed that he has been suffering from substance addiction in his early years. The actor posted a 2-part tweet telling fans about his problems with substance misuse and his time in hospital receiving mental health treatment. Quote, 12 and a half years ago, I was in active addiction, hurting myself and those around me who I love the most. It got so bad that eventually I ended up in hospital for mental health. But he went on to assure fans that he is now 7.5 years clean and sober. He admitted that he had made many mistakes in his life, but each day is a chance to start again.
atone for mistakes, and grow. He ended the tweet with an inspiring message by saying that he is so grateful to be sober and that all of us are works in progress. Number 3, Bradley Cooper. In a new episode of the Smartless podcast, hosted by Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes, Bradley Cooper opened up about the addiction struggles that haunted his 20s and how a friend jump-started his journey to recovery. The Oscar-nominated actor said that when he moved to LA for his role in Alias, he felt like he was back in high school, which ruined his self-esteem. Quote, "I couldn't get into any clubs, no girls wanted to look at me, I was totally depressed." He was later fired from the series and was dealing with an injury to his Achilles tendon at the same time. During this trying time in his career, he turned to and his addiction slowly got worse over time. It was only when Cooper went to a dinner party with Arnett when he was 29 that he realized he had hit rock bottom. Arnett, who was essentially his hero, called him out for his rude behavior during the party, and then the actor had a light bulb moment and realized that he had a problem with illicit substances and alcohol. Then between the ages of 29 to 34, the actor worked really hard at sobriety and had an ongoing journey of self-acceptance thanks to therapy. Number 2, Travis Barker. The Blink-182 drummer was in a horrific plane crash in 2008 that killed everyone on board except for him and one passenger. Although Travis survived, his two closest friends, Chris Baker and Charles Still, lost their lives that day. The only other survivor, his friend Adam Goldstein, died the following year. In the aftermath of all the tragedy, Travis spent 3 months in the hospital and had to have 26 different surgeries performed on him and multiple skin grafts to treat his various injuries from the crash. But what's truly amazing here is prior to the accident, Travis had been suffering from an intense addiction to opioids for several years, as it was only the life-changing crash that altered his mental state enough to ditch the substances. He told Men's Health, quote, "People are always like, did you go to rehab? And I say no, I was in a plane crash. That was my rehab. Lose 3 of your friends and almost die? That was my wake-up call. If I wasn't in a crash, I would probably never quit." Travis said that he used to smoke an excessive amount of a certain leafy green substance and used painkillers as a method of coping with his fear of flying that he developed osteoporosis. In fact, in the hospital for 11 weeks following the crash, Travis frequently regained consciousness during surgeries because his opioid tolerance was so high. And coming in at number 1, Robert Downey Jr. The actor is now one of the most notable and inspiring cases for sobriety. Robert Downey Jr. has had a phenomenal Hollywood comeback story and is now one of the most bankable and highly paid actors in show business, starring in blockbuster comic book films like Iron Man and in the Avengers, but the actor spent most of his early career under the influence, leading to high-profile arrests and a string of rehab visits. His addiction started during childhood and was allegedly encouraged by his father, Robert Downey Sr., who also had a substance use disorder and allowed his son to try a leafy green substance at only 6 years old. According to a 1996 People article, the illicit substances actually facilitated an emotional bond between the two, and so for years, addiction was incredibly difficult for Downey Jr. to break away from. It was only when his wife, Susan Downey, revealed in 2003 that she gave her husband an ultimatum that he decided to quit for good. And apparently, it stuck because 10 years later, in an interview with Daily Mail, the actor credited a combination of 12-step programs, yoga, meditation, and therapy for keeping him sober.
At number 10 is Shaq's embarrassing trip to Walmart. The NBA Hall of Famer is one of the greatest basketball players of all time and is also hilarious, by the way. Honestly, I feel like his comedy is a little underrated, not gonna lie. Even though he's retired now, he still maintains his funny personality on social media and in live interviews. During one of his interviews in 2018 while he was on The Late Late Show, he shared the story about a time that he went to Walmart and his credit card got declined. The incident happened after he was traded from Miami to Phoenix and he needed furniture for his new apartment because he didn't want to wait for his stuff to arrive from Miami. So he went to Walmart and spent $70,000, but his credit card got declined several times and he actually had to call American Express with everyone watching. $70,000 at Walmart? What are you buying? Moving on to number 9 is Madonna opens up about her sex life. Leave it up to Ellen to add a game to her show that has her celebrity guests opening up about their personal business. She added this classic party game, Never Ever Have I Ever, and has them answer with an answer card that says they have, or if they flip it, it says they have never. Madonna was paired with Justin Bieber to to play, and Ellen asked them, "Never ever have I ever had sex with more than 2 different people in one day." Justin and Ellen both held up the "I have never" card, but Madonna held up the "I have." Unfortunately, we didn't get any more details about who her 2-for-1 hookups were, but we did learn that she is just a little more frisky than we thought. Cruising into our number 8 spot is the time that Diddy confessed the craziest place that he had sex. Ellen DeGeneres is back at it again with a fun game to get some gossip about her guests, and one of them is called Hot Seat. Her guests sit with her in 2 hot seats and they fire off questions that they have to answer, and then they quickly hit the buzzer when they are done. Apparently her show just has no shame in asking people about their sex life, because she asked him, "Where is the craziest place you've had sex?" But he had no shame in answering and revealed the secret that he's actually had sex at Nobu, which is one of the most famous and popular restaurants in LA. So next time you're eating at Nobu, just know that he had sex there. In spot number 7 is Kim Kardashian accidentally revealed the gender of her child. In the world of Hollywood, media outlets would fight to their death to find out a secret like this so that they could be the first to publish it. But Kim didn't give them the chance because she accidentally let it slip during an interview on Ellen. Her and her husband Kanye West revealed that they were going to have their 3rd child through a surrogate, but didn't want to reveal the gender. She screwed up though when she was telling a story about her daughter North wanting to keep all the new baby's toys in her room. She said that the day after the shower, North went up to her and said, "Mom, since baby sister's not here, I think I need all of her toys in my room and I'll play with them and make sure they're okay for baby sister." Ellen was quick to point out that she just told us it is a girl because she's having a baby sister. Oops. And number 6 is the time that Denise Richards talked about her lesbian fling. Most people are used to seeing her as Charlie Sheen's former wife and also the mother to his kids. But when she did an interview on the Howard Stern show, she revealed some spicy information about her life outside of Mr. Sheen. She admitted that she had hooked up with a female friend. She wouldn't reveal who it was, but said that she's also a well-known Hollywood star. She talked about it and said, "I just met her through friends and work and stuff. I was just curious. We were curious. She was a girly girl and she's beautiful. You would know who she is." Come on, Denise, we need more than that. Tell us who it is. I want to know.
Halfway number 5, Amber Heard. If you watch I.O., then you definitely know about Amber Heard. Amber Heard and Johnny Depp were married in 2015 after meeting on the set of The Rum Diary. But only a year later, the couple had divorced and Amber requested a restraining order against Depp, citing violence and physical abuse. Then an explosive TMZ video came out showing Depp throwing a wine bottle and glass at Heard. She also submitted pictures to the court showing bruises on her face. After all this was exposed, everyone took Amber's side, and Johnny was blacklisted from Hollywood. But the story wasn't over yet, and voice recordings were later leaked showing that Amber was actually abusive to Johnny on many occasions, and Heard had actually been accused of domestic violence many times in her past, while Johnny's ex-girlfriends came to his defense, saying that he had never hurt them. Right now they're involved in a lengthy court case with Johnny suing Heard for defamation, and a lot more is coming out, including the fact that she in their bed, and I wish I was joking, but I sadly am not. In number 4, Matt Lauer. Matt Lauer was one of the biggest news personalities on NBC for 2 decades, and he rose through the ranks of the organization very quickly, with the network paying him $25 million a year. And near the end, he was so powerful at the company he could practically do whatever he wanted and he'd get away with it. But his days on top came to an end in 2017 when Lauer was abruptly fired after tons of sexual allegations were revealed. According to Ronan Farrow, it started with one employee complaining he forced himself on her in a hotel room during the 2014 Olympics. Then shortly after, 3 more women came out. As well, he's accused of treating women like objects and just being an all-around bad guy with a smooth-talking facade. Lauer claimed it was all consensual, but of course he was let go from the company and is now disgraced in the industry. And at number 3, Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen is one of the most beloved people ever, and before her huge scandal, she was one of the most well-known people on television. She was even nicknamed the Queen of Nice. But that all came crashing down in March of 2020 when Kevin T. Porter claimed that her niceness was all an act, and she was, quote, notoriously one of the meanest people alive. Then more people came out with their stories about Ellen, with one server saying she got fired because Ellen complained about her chipped nail polish. Then when the lockdowns happened, Ellen was one of the only shows that didn't pay her employees during the leave. Then tons of reports came out that Ellen's show had a toxic work environment, and top producers were accused of sexual conduct and racist behavior. She recently just came back on air, and time will tell if she can win back people's hearts. Based on the dislike ratings in her most recent Ellen 2 videos, it's not looking too good. In at number 2, Demi Lovato. Demi was one of Disney's most promising stars in the early 2000s, but there were a lot of up and downs happening behind the scenes of her life that no one really knew about. After Demi punched one of her backup dancers in 2010, Demi checked into rehab to address her quote emotional and personal issues. Some of those issues include bipolar disorder, an eating disorder, and frequent use of drugs. In her documentary, she opened up about her use of drugs further, saying, quote, I was sneaking it on planes, sneaking it on bathrooms, sneaking it through the night. Nobody knew. It was so bad she came close to ODing multiple times. One of those times was in 2018 when she was rushed to a hospital because she'd taken too much. Since then, she's committed to remaining sober and is living a healthy life. And finally, number 1, Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams is known on television as the woman that spills the tea, and she is one of the most entertaining and shady hosts ever. And one of the things people love most about her is how honest she is with her fans, sharing most of the details of her personal life. But in 2017 is when things started happening. They made it clear there was more going on behind the scenes than we all knew. First, she fainted live on air in 2017, then took weeks off to rest, revealing later that she struggled with Graves' disease for years. Then in March of 2019, she made headlines when she revealed that she was sober after many years of being a functioning drug addict. Then only a few weeks later, it was revealed her and her husband were splitting after his mistress gave birth to a child, revealing later in an interview with Andy Cohen that she knew of her husband's infidelities for years, but she stayed because of her son. Alright everyone, that's all for the list today. Let me know what you're thinking down below, and whose double life shocked you the most. Honestly, I can't even pick. So many of these are just so crazy and terrible like you would never even think. Like Tiger and Teresa Giudice, like it's just insane.
At number 10, we have former Bachelor Australia contestant Kira Maguire, who revealed in 2016 that she was brought up in a polygamous cult in Victoria. The affiliation, known as the Seaside Sect, was founded by Kira's father and included his 9 wives. One of those wives was Kira's mother, and Kira's father was also detailed to have 64 children and endlessly devoted followers who were drawn to his quote religious teachings, with claims that he was the reincarnation of the Lord. When Kira spoke about her upbringing in a statement for Women's Day, she explained, quote, I am not in a position to comment. My mother removed my family from that environment when I was 5 years old, over 25 years ago. I was brought up by my mother and grandmother in Brisbane in a loving, caring, and compassionate household. At number 9, we have Joker's Joaquin Phoenix, who detailed to Playboy in a 2016 interview of him being born into the children of God. The Walk the Line actor says, when people bring up children of God, there's always something vaguely accusatory about it. It's guilt by association. I think it was really innocent on my parents' part. They really believed, but I don't think most people see it that way. I've always thought that was strange and unfair. TLG first came to light as Teens for Christ and is now known by its latest name of the Family International. This organization started as a method of messaging known as flirty fishing, which was explained to have used intercourse to depict God's love and mercy to gain new believers. In the same Playboy chit chat, Joaquin also disclosed his parents' gradual realization of the disturbing nature of the group's practices. While Joaquin said he believed his parents' original thoughts of finding a community who shared their own ideals, on the opposite end, cults rarely brand themselves as just that. Instead, they deem themselves as quote like-minded people, but Joaquin detailed that as soon as his parents caught on to something darker happening, they got themselves out right away. At number 8, we have Stranger Things Joyce Byers actress Winona Ryder. Now, unlike a lot of other celebs on today's list, Winona seems to share great sentiment and respect for her former lifestyle. The group, known as the Rainbow Family Commune of Living, is located in California and is described as more of a community rather than a cult. Still, Winona was 7 when her family relocated into the Rainbow organization, and alongside 7 other families, Winona was reportedly living without television, music, and electricity across a 300-acre plot of land. According to the actress, she spent most of her developing years taking up an interest in her now career and reading, following her mother showing her and her siblings movies that were screen projected inside the farm's barn. When Winona recalled her childhood in a Dazed interview, she was incredibly fond and spoke highly of Rainbow. Quote, it was pretty incredible. We were in 380 acres of redwoods and there was no electricity. At At number 7, we have Smallville duo Kristen Cruick and Allison Mack, who were allegedly members of a group known as NXIVM. This quote religious organization brands itself as a self-help group for the rich and famous in accordance with the Albany Times. Apparently of the two, it was reportedly Kristen who initially joined the gathering and then proceeded to later drag Allison along with her. Multiple sources hint that the actresses were recruiting love slaves for their alleged leader Keith's subgroup called The Vow. Inside the practices of The Vow, it's been rumored that the women were constantly degraded, blackmailed, and mistreated. A former NXIVM publicist made claims that the gathering used girls who were not of legal age to fulfill Keith's needs, and the girls were branded with Keith and Allison's initials, whereas it stated that Allison was the visionary behind branding the young girls. Not to mention Keith's arrest in March 2018 in Mexico for trafficking and forced labor, with video footage depicting Allison ready to follow the police if they chose to leave the property with Keith. As for Kristen, she made a tweet which spoke about her enrollment in the group, detailing that the course helped her overcome her shy nature. She also discussed on the social platform her leave and how she maintained minimal contact with anyone still involved. But at the same time, Kristen flat out denied all claims regarding the accusations of her being in the inner circle, as well as her non-involvement as a slave. There was even another former member who confirmed on Twitter that Kristen's non-inclusion being a part of the cult subgroup, where she was described as a lovely person who would never engage in those kinds of activities, and how she had gotten herself out of the mess before ish got weird. At number 6, we have Breathe Again singer Toni Braxton. Now Toni released a memoir titled Unbreak My Heart, which revealed the R&B singer's involvement with the Pillar of Truth, a Pentecostal apostolic group alongside her family as a young girl. Toni explained how her family soon fell into religious extremism. The behavior in question was known as the women and their nakedness needing to be covered up fully, and almost everything was deemed as evil. This evil included seemingly normal occurrences like going to the movies, for example. In light of her experience, Toni described connecting her faith and her devotion to God with that of judgment, anxiety, and guilt. Apparently, the group also alleged to require its members to speak in tongues. Reportedly, Toni had faked this at a mere 8 years old just to keep up, explaining, "The ties that bound us together became the ties that strangled us." As per the Daily Mail, the Braxton family first became a part of 2 more repressive churches before they settled themselves into the Truth Foundation.
Halfway number 5, Scientology. Scientology is a mysterious religion that happens to have a ton of A-list celebrity followers. It's been said that the founder of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, used celebrities because he knew that they would attract followers to this new religion. This is also the reason that the Church of Scientology has a huge luxurious building right on Hollywood Boulevard. In the 1950s, L. Ron Hubbard created the quote, Project Celebrity, a written program that offers rewards to Scientologists who bring in some of the biggest names in Hollywood. Today, some of Hollywood's biggest stars follow Scientology, including Tom Cruise, John Travolta, and Kirstie Alley. Apparently, these stars are rewarded with butler-esque employees to do anything and everything for them. Former high-ranking members spoke out against this, claiming that they saw Tom Cruise use underpaid Scientology workers for years. And at number 4, gender pay gap. Yet another example of Hollywood being harmful to women is the gender pay gap between men and women in movies. And unfortunately, this still exists to this day. This issue came to the forefront in 2013 when the movie American Hustle was released. The movie showcases huge movie stars, but unfortunately was exposed that the female actors received less than their male counterparts. An email hack revealed that Jennifer Lawrence and Amy Adams received 2 points less on the revenue sharing agreement than their male co-stars Bradley Cooper and Christian Bale, despite the fact that both actresses are A-list actors. Around the same time, Meryl Streep, the actor with the most Oscars ever, came forward to say that even she was paid less than her male co-stars. House of Cards actress Robin Wright also said that she needed to be paid as much as Kevin Spacey or she would go public against Netflix. And at number 3, animal cruelty. When making a movie, it's imperative that nobody is hurt during the production. This includes animals, and it's common to read, quote, "No animals were harmed during the making of" while watching a movie. But according to many reports out of Hollywood, that's not always true. and animals are often harmed on movie sets. Some of the worst examples include the near-drowning death of a tiger during the filming of Life of Pi, the hitting of a dog on the set of 8 Below, and the dozens of dead fish and squid that washed up on the shore over 4 days during filming of the Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. The second season of the HBO series Luck was actually cancelled after 4 horses died during the production. Apparently they were overworked because the production wanted the horse racing to look as real as possible. The people on set also ignored warnings from humane animal monitors on the set, making it clear that they didn't care about the animals. Unfortunately, this loss of life had no repercussion. In at number 2, Hollywood fixers. It's long been rumored that bigwigs in Hollywood will hire fixers to do the dirty work for them. These are basically tough guys that will swoop in and do the dirty work that these powerful people can't get caught doing themselves. This idea was brought up again because of the series Ray Donovan. Back in the days of old Hollywood, where stars would sign their lives away to movie studios, it was common to have these fixers to deal with personal issues. It was rumored that these men would cover up pregnancies of their young stars, along with making accusations against powerful men go away. And these practices still happen today. A fixer named Anthony Pellicano was arrested after it was discovered that he sent threatening notes to celebrities along with a dead fish. Pellicano was allegedly employed by stars such as Michael Jackson, Chris Rock, Kevin Costner, and Steven Spielberg. And finally at number 1, the Illuminati. The Illuminati might be the most elusive group in Hollywood. Nobody is quite sure who they are, but everyone is pretty sure that some of the top celebrities in the world are a part of it. Most notably Beyonce, Jay-Z, Tom Hanks, and Lady Gaga. The subject of the Illuminati was brought to light again recently after David Dobrik did a podcast interview where he spoke about his experience with the Illuminati in Hollywood. He told the story to Zayn and Heath on their podcast, where David revealed that a girl that he knew was approached by the Illuminati, and she was told she needed to sacrifice someone to them if she wanted to get famous. Apparently this girl called her mother, who was okay to be the one sacrificed, but the girl did not end up going through with it. Months later, David and this girl were at a Hollywood party with old Hollywood A-listers, and when the topic of the Illuminati came up, the girl told the group about how she was approached, and one of the A-listers told her not to get involved with them because the Illuminati ruined his best friend's life. Apparently this A-lister's supposed best friend was Michael Jackson.
Number 10, Matthew Perry. During his time playing Chandler Bing on the TV show Friends, fans would have never guessed that Matthew Perry was privately struggling with a Vicodin addiction. It all started with a horrible jet ski accident in 1997 that left the actor with pretty serious injuries, for which he was then prescribed the pain-blocking medication Vicodin. But throughout all this, the star was able to maintain his acting career and managed to keep his dependency under wraps. He told the New York Times in 2002 that he went to work in extreme cases of hangover, and it was so horrible to be like that and still have to be funny on top of that. His friend's co-star Lisa Kudrow noticed everything. Quote, "When Matthew was sick, it was not fun. We were just hopelessly standing on the sidelines. We were hurting a lot." Sometime later, the beloved actor confessed that the series was causing him immense stress, which subsequently made his addiction worse. But throughout all of this, Perry has a positive outlook on life. Quote, "The best thing about me is that if an alcoholic comes to me and says, 'Will you help me stop drinking?' I will say, 'Yes, I know how to do that.'" So it's amazing that he's now able to help others who are in the same situation. Number 9, Machine Gun Kelly. In a candid conversation with Dave Franco for Interview magazine, the 32-year-old singer revealed that he was dealing with a secret dependency on illicit substances while writing and recording music. He said that he believed that this is how you attained a certain level or unlocked something in your brain. Quote, "Adderall was a huge thing for me for a long time, and I went from orally taking it to then it, and then it became something where I was scared to ever go into a studio if I didn't have something." Kelly went on to say that he wouldn't even step out unless there was a medicine man who was going to visit him and give him what he needed. Quote, "And that's where it becomes a problem. You're telling yourself you can't do this without that, when really it's in you the whole time. If that pill did that for you, then everyone who's taken that would just be making albums and writing songs. And so that limited me." The singer explained that the most challenging part of recovery is separating his music persona, Machine Gun Kelly, from who he really is as Colson Baker, and credits his girlfriend Megan Fox as an essential part of his support system. But Kelly is putting in the work to live a sober life, and is currently taking steps to change. In fact, he had his first therapy session last month, so things are looking good for him. Number 8, Demi Lovato. The star has struggled with addiction since 2010, when she first entered rehab at the age of 18. Over the years, Demi returned to rehab to treat an eating eating disorder, self-harm, and substance addiction. For the Disney Channel star, the success of Camp Rock and various other shows really launched her into the spotlight, but the way she coped with the stress and demands of superstardom was unfortunately turning to illicit substances. She managed to keep this all under wraps throughout her youth until her secret life was eventually exposed. In July of 2018, Demi suffered an overdose, and she spent several days in the hospital before going to treatment later that summer. In August, she told her Instagram followers that she was hospitalized, and she released the following statement on Instagram, quote, "What I've learned is that this illness is not something that disappears or fades with time. It's something I must continue to overcome and have not done yet." Since then, her journey through the ups and downs of sobriety has helped many people, and she has since been able to speak openly about her addictions. Number 7. Ben Affleck. The actor has long been vocal about his sobriety throughout his career, starting with his openness about his family history and rehab stays. But it wasn't always this way. In fact, for many years, he was battling his addiction to alcohol in secret. In 2012, he confessed to Barbara Walters that his father was an alcoholic and said that he drank all day, every day, explaining that the legacy of that is quite powerful and hard to shake. After starring in Good Will Hunting, Affleck took a serious look at his binge drinking. Quote, "I just wanted to stop. I started regretting some things I did when I was drunk. It's funny to be obnoxious or out of control. I have almost no inhibitions, so it's dangerous for me." But it wasn't until 2001 that the actor actually sought treatment for his alcoholism. He has since been to rehab multiple times and has been in recovery ever since. Things have been going well for the actor recently, but recovery can be an uphill battle, and Affleck suffered another setback in October 2019, 2 months after celebrating 1 year of sobriety, when he was photographed leaving a Halloween party intoxicated. But in January last year, he revealed on the podcast Awards Chatter that he feels very good despite having slips here and there. Number 6. Jamie Lee Curtis. It was 1998 and the iconic Scream Queen was cooking dinner for her and her 2 children in her LA home. And doing what she usually did, Jamie reached into her pants pocket and scooped up 5 Vicodin and swallowed them all at once with a swig of wine. But she didn't realize that a friend who was staying at the house was watching her from a doorway, and she was caught red-handed. Quote, "The jig was up. Now I knew someone knew. I had been nursing a secret Vicodin addiction for a very long time, over 10 years. Jamie had been hooked on the substance after routine plastic surgery to remove the puffiness around her eyes. She said that the surgery itself wasn't painful, but they gave her Vicodin to aid recovery, and from there on she was hooked. Not only that, but the addiction ran in her family, and her brother Nicholas sadly passed away from substance use disorder at the age of 21 in 1994. Last year, Jamie opened up to Hello magazine about her struggle. Quote, "My recovery is the single greatest accomplishment that I will ever get to do in this human life. I have been clean and sober for 22 years. The actress is now an advocate for policies to reduce opioid misuse.
Halfway number 5, fake names. The vast majority of Hollywood A-listers do not use their real names, instead they concocted a stage name. This is done for a variety of reasons. Sometimes just because their old name isn't as flashy, but other times the reasons are pretty dark. For some examples of celebrities with fake names, Martin Sheen's real name is Raymond Antonio Gerard Estevez, Jamie Foxx's name is Eric Marlon Bishop, and Marilyn Monroe's real name was Norma Jean Mortensen. Then other times a name change can be used to hide nepotism. Like for instance, Nicolas Cage's real name is Nicholas Coppola, and he's the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, a famous Hollywood director. This familial connection landed Nick Cage his first role in the movie Peggy Sue Got Married. Other times a name change can be to hide racism. Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actor Chloe Bennett, real name Chloe Wang, said, quote, "Hollywood is racist and wouldn't cast me with a last name that made them uncomfortable." In at number 4, stuntmen regularly lose their lives. Stuntmen are a very common thing on movie sets because A-list actors aren't able to do the stunts that we see in a lot of action movies. But fans might not know what a dangerous job that it is, and stuntmen regularly get critically injured or even lose their lives. And for how vital their role is to these movies, they are not paid fairly. The average stunt person pulls in about $250K a year, which sounds great, but is nothing compared to the about $20 million that the movie stars are making. Big name stars are obviously the ones that sell the tickets, but they're not the ones who put their lives on the line. During the filming of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, Daniel Radcliffe's stunt double David Holmes got hit by a staged explosion, and he was so seriously injured by the fragments that he suffered a neck break that left him fully paralyzed. Then on the set of Deadpool 2, a stuntman lost their life during a car crash scene. And at number 3, substance misuse.
Following the release of the biopic Judy, we got to see the horrible practices the movie execs would use to get their talent to do what they wanted, specifically using illicit substances to wake the actors up and keep them on set working for very long hours. According to a 1982 New York Times article, use of these substances became so common that movie insurers would put clauses in their contracts to cut losses from these sorts of incidents, because several deaths and injuries on set stem from the use of these substances. In her 2013 memoir, Debbie Reynolds, the female lead for the 1952 musical Singing in the Rain, recalled that when her grueling schedule started to take a toll on her health, a studio executive told her to, quote, take vitamin shots from his doctor. Then Judy Garland revealed her mother would give her, quote, pep pills to ensure she had enough energy to film all day. Because of the toll these substances took on her health, Judy unfortunately passed away at the age of 47 because of an OD from these substances. In at number 2, inappropriate behavior runs rampant. So I'm gonna have to dance around the subject a bit for this one, but the things that have been exposed during the Me Too and Time's Up era are not new and have been happening for decades. Harvey Weinstein wasn't the first and only power player in Hollywood to use his power to get women to do what he wanted. And this all goes back to the idea of the, quote, casting couch, where you are expected to do sexual favors to these executives in exchange for a role. And there are many examples of this behavior taking place in Hollywood. Even worse, this behavior can also happen against One study even found that 94% of women employed in the American film industry have experienced sexual harassment or worse. This is a staggering number that should make everyone push for change. And finally, at number 1, discrimination problem. The problem of diversity in Hollywood is something that's being brought up more and more over the years, and when we look at some of the stats, it's pretty wild. Only one woman has ever won the Oscar for Best Director, and that was Kathryn Bigelow for the 2008 movie The Hurt Locker. Also, only one African American has ever won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay in the history of the Academy. That was Jordan Peele in 2018 for Get Out. But the problem is not only in the cast and crew of the movies, it's the higher up of the business in general. A 2016 Washington Post investigation reported that 96% of Hollywood's decision makers were white and 87% of them were male. Clearly a large gap between those demographics and what we see in society today. A study of 100 movies released in 2016 also showed that about 70% of speaking roles in that year's top 100 films were white, leaving 30% to account for Black, Asian, and Hispanic people. Another shocking stat was that just 31% of speaking characters were female. So starting off at number 10, we have Tiger Woods. So back in 2009, Tiger Woods was at the top of his game, and he held the title of best golfer in the world. He also had a beautiful family with 2 kids and a loving wife. But it all changed when the National Enquirer accused him of having an affair with a nightclub manager. This then led Tiger to crash his Escalade into a neighbor's tree at 2 a.m. and he was charged for reckless driving. This then led to rumors that Tiger's wife, Elin Nordegren, knew of the affair and was physically attacking him for it and smashing his car. After all this came out, it got worse for the family when countless women came forward with their stories of sleeping with Woods, making it clear that Tiger was cheating throughout their picture-perfect marriage. A few months later, in February 2010, Woods came on television and made a statement about all of it, admitting he was unfaithful to his wife and he was going to be treated for a sex addiction. But because of all this, his golfing took a huge hit, and some of his biggest sponsors pulled the plug on him. And at number 9, Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner was known for many things over the last few decades, with her being a successful Olympic athlete and then the lovable and relatable dad of the Kardashian family on Keeping Up. But during all those years, Caitlyn was holding in a huge secret, and that was the fact that she identified as a woman practically her whole life. The situation started when Kris Jenner divorced Caitlyn in 2014, with the tabloids rumoring that Caitlyn was transitioning. But after months of speculation, Caitlyn set the record straight in July of 2015 and did an interview with Diane Sawyer, confirming that she was a woman. There was also a special on Keeping Up, where Caitlyn told her family of her new identity, and we got to see the family react to the news. And after all these years, it's great to see that Caitlyn now can live as her true self, but unfortunately some of the things she has said about her transition has caused her former Kar Jenner family members to distance themselves. And at number 8, Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber rose to fame as a teen idol and a bubblegum pop sensation. But this wholesome reputation didn't last as Justin got older, and he was caught starting fights, egging houses, and getting arrested for a DUI. Because of all the negative things about him in the press, he was banned from several countries and would leave his concerts early if people were annoying him. This caused some of his fans to turn on him, with him getting a water bottle thrown at his head during one performance. But after a few years with a bad reputation, he decided to turn it around in 2017, and he canceled a tour in order to spend more time attending church and making himself a better person. And now he's very outspoken about his dedication to God and makes it a center point of his life. And now that he's married, he seems to be on a better path. And at number 7, Coco Chanel. Coco Chanel is best known for creating one of the most recognizable luxury brand names ever. She was born in France in 1883. By the time she was 27, she owned a successful clothing store, and only 10 years later, she would release the little black dress and change the face of fashion forever. But while her brand was growing in the 1930s, France was taken over by Hitler's army, and many Parisians resisted the German invasion. But to the surprise of many, Coco was not one of those people, and she seemed to welcome the rules that the Germans were enforcing at the time. She even dated an SS soldier at one point, and although many say it meant nothing, there have been many rumors over the years that Coco was anti-Semitic. With one book called Sleeping with the Enemy, Coco Chanel's Secret War, the author alleges that Coco was actually a secret intelligence operative for the Germans. After the war, she fled to Switzerland, but she managed to come back to France later because she got funding from the wealthy Wertheimer family, who still control most of the company and do their best to avoid questions about Coco's relation to the Germans. And at number 6, Teresa Giudice. Teresa is best known for her messy antics on The Real Housewives of New Jersey, and it seemed that ever since she was featured on the show, she was doing everything possible to prove her and her husband were uber rich. But the cracks started to reveal themselves pretty fast. It started when the couple filed for bankruptcy. Then a few years later, Teresa and her husband Joe were sentenced to jail after pleading guilty to fraud charges in 2014. After pleading, Teresa ended up serving 11 months of the 15-month sentence and came out of jail $11 million in debt. But her husband had an even worse fate and was released to ICE, who later deported him back to Italy. And even worse, the couple ended up separating in 2019. And this is a classic case of what's called a duck, and that's someone who looks fine above water, but underneath their legs are kicking like crazy, and they're doing whatever they can to stay afloat and maintain that rich image.
We are halfway through and we have Justin Timberlake admitted to a hookup. He was another victim of Ellen's game of Never Ever Have I Ever, and he played with the infamous boy band NSYNC. They were all asked, never ever have I ever slept with a Spice Girl. Justin was the only person to turn the card so that it said I have. The audience began cheering, and of course they wanted to know which Spice Girl it was, but he refused to tell. We'll leave it up to fans to come to the conclusion though that it was Baby Spice. They started posting a video clip of an interview she did back in 2004 when she was asked if she had a one-nighter with Justin, because those were the rumors going on at the time. She responded with, "We hung out and partied a bit and he's very sweet. He spoke about this first because otherwise I would have not said a word. He's very sweet." So she didn't really confirm nor deny. At number 4, we have J-Lo snuck a man into her house. Now you're probably wondering why she would have to sneak a man into her house. Like, she is an adult and she's also J-Lo, so she can basically do whatever she wants and invite people into her house at any time. But there is one thing she has to consider, and that is her kids, which is ultimately her biggest priority. During an interview one time, she was asked about her love life and if she has ever had to sneak a man into her house, and she revealed that she totally has. Fans were hoping she might spill the tea and tell us who it was, but she kept that little detail to herself and admitted that she has totally snuck a man in at night while her kids were sleeping. Alright guys, we have made it to number 3 and it's a bit more serious. Melissa Joan Hart revealed on a talk show that she did drugs during her time as Sabrina the Teenage Witch. For a long time, she was the ultimate girl next door. Audiences fell in love with her instantly and she quickly became a teen star. But back in 2013, she got candid during an interview and dished details about her wild side. She said she had drug-fueled Hollywood nights and revealed shocking affairs with some of her co-stars at the time. She said, "I experimented with weed, ecstasy, and mushrooms for about a year and a half. One of her most shocking stories was from 1999, where she said she took ecstasy one night at the Playboy Mansion, made out with a girl on the limo ride home, and then showed up to her Maxim photo shoot still high from the night before." Honestly, I would have never suspected this from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Kinda ruining my childhood a little bit, kinda weird to think about, but hey, I don't judge. Taking over the number 2 spot is Leslie Jones, used to work for Scientology. The SNL star was on the Ellen DeGeneres show when she was asked what job she worked before she was famous. Surely, she could have said any of her other jobs, like McDonald's or Walmart or something. I'm sure we all had a part-time job. But instead, she was honest and admitted that she used to be a telemarketer for Scientology. She said, "I lived in Glendale. I needed to pay the rent and it was a very easy interview. I just acted crazy. They kinda still don't know I'm not a Scientologist." She cracked a joke to the camera and apologized to other Scientologists out there for revealing things. But she seemed to have no problem revealing the secret, despite all the controversy around the religion. In our number 1 spot is Holly Madison revealing dark secrets about Hugh Hefner. Many people would love to know all the juicy details of what really went on in the Playboy Mansion when Hugh Hefner was still with us. But thanks to his former girlfriend Holly Madison, we do. After After being his #1 girlfriend in the house and dating him for 6 years, she decided to write a tell-all book called Down the Rabbit Hole back in 2015. The book exposed their age difference in the relationship and just everything that came along with it. She then went on to do some talk shows where she talked about personal experiences in their sex life, saying they used to engage in group sex in his bedroom, and also admitted to the wild parties that they had at the house, claiming that some of the girls would actually be drugged at the party and then taken advantage of. Some of her claims were pretty serious, and her former playmate said that she was lying and actually did not defend her statements. So basically, it's if you believe her or not.
And then number 10, Mafia Connections. Back when Hollywood first started, it was rumored that mobster Mickey Cohen ran the Hollywood underworld. Back in 1950, it was apparently a known thing that Cohen ran many organized crime units in LA. And over the years, it's been revealed that a lot of big old Hollywood stars had connections to the mafia. Even singer Wayne Newton had a connection to the mafia, and it almost ended up costing his life. Newton was apparently friendly with Guido Penosi, who was a member of the Gambino crime family, but Newton claimed he had no idea that he had mob ties. Then in 1980, there was a lot of scandal around Newton and the Aladdin Hotel that was co-owned with mafia members. Rumors swirled that Newton was talking to police behind their backs. Then Newton was put on a witness list to testify against the family, which got him a legitimate threat against his life from the mafia. Thank God he was able to survive the ordeal. And at number 9, ageism. Getting older is a fact of life, but in Hollywood they want to avoid it at all costs. And specifically for women, getting older means the end of your career. It's so bad that actors even try to hide their ages, so they can play younger roles. Actress Junie Ho Wang sued the website Internet Movie Database for revealing her true age to fans. Actress Jessica Lange has defied this ageism and has success in her 60s, but she admits it was more difficult as she got older. She said in one interview, quote, "Ageism is pervasive in this industry. It's not a level playing field. You don't often see women in their 60s playing romantic leads, yet you will see men in their 60s playing romantic leads with co-stars who are decades younger." And at number 8, fake fans. In the age of social media, followers are everything, and having tons of followers can mean the difference between getting the part or not. But sadly, a lot of these followers are not real, and it's been exposed that millions of social media followers are fake and are purchased to make it seem like the star is more popular. Some of the world's most popular celebrities are a part of this. Some of the worst offenders are Ariana Grande with 46% fake, Taylor Swift with also 46% fake, and Miley Cyrus with 45% fake. It's worth noting that the celebrity is not always responsible for the fake followers, but they usually are. And at number 7, all press is good press. We've all heard the famous saying, and it seems that celebrities don't care if they're getting good or bad press, they just want to be talked about. People might not know it's actually a PR strategy to get bad press. Sometimes the negativity helps to sell something, or it can take attention off something else. One example of this was back in 2014 when it was revealed that Kim and Kanye were going to be on the cover of Vogue. At the time, Kim was not a fashion icon, and people were outraged. Some readers even threatened to cancel their Vogue subscriptions, calling Kimye disgraceful and inappropriate for the iconic publication. Anna Wintour ended up going forward with the cover, and it was one of the most talked about issues of all time. We're not sure if it was all for press, but the negativity definitely helped to sell magazines. And at number 6, body issues. Looking perfect is something that all celebrities struggle with, but having the perfect figure is sadly something that the industry forces you to have to be successful. Many celebrities have come forward to share their stories of disordered eating, which was caused by Hollywood bigwigs saying that they weighed too much. Even agents and managers have told a star that they need to lose weight in order to be cast. Former child actor Raven Simone admitted on The View that she was told at age 7, while starring on The Cosby Show, that she couldn't eat certain things because she was getting too big. This experience caused her to have a lifelong struggle with food. Demi Lovato has also been open about their eating issues. Demi remembered that when they were only 3 years old, they hoped that their stomach was flat. People are now fighting back against these standards and advocating for more body positivity in Hollywood, but it's a long road ahead.
We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Sean Penn. A number of women have come forward saying that Sean Penn has been aggressive towards them. In fact, he has mistreated a number of his partners, including Madonna. They were married from 1985 to 1989. While in December of 1988, Penn allegedly tied Madonna to a chair and held her hostage for 9 hours and apparently hit her multiple times. When he untied her to let her use the bathroom, she fled to the police station. One officer said, and I quote, "Madonna staggered into the station. She was distraught, crying, with makeup smeared all over her face. I hardly recognized her. She had obviously been struck." Sean was charged with inflicting corporal injury and traumatic conditions on Madonna, as well as battery. But Madonna withdrew her complaint a week later and has rarely commented on it since, which is quite odd. Why would she say that he harmed her and then retract the statement? So who knows what really happened. Moving on to number 4, we have Leighton Meester. Now, I personally did not know this, but Blair Waldorf, aka Leighton Meester, wasn't always the queen bee of Manhattan. In fact, she was born in prison. Basically, her mom was serving a sentence after smuggling a lot of marijuana out of Jamaica with the help of Leighton's dad and Aunt Judy. All of them ended up behind bars. In fact, her aunt managed to escape prison and became America's first woman on the US Marshals 15 Most Wanted list. How insane is that? In the end, Leighton's grandmother raised her while her mom served 16 months in prison. Thank gosh she didn't follow in her family's footsteps. In our third spot, we have Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken was involved in a death that is just shrouded in mystery. On November 29th, 1981, 43-year-old actress Natalie Wood was found dead floating face down in the Pacific Ocean. She was on a yacht with her husband Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken when this happened. The thing is, no one really knows what happened to her. Some say she slipped off the deck and fell into the water, while others are convinced that her husband or Christopher Walken had something to do with it, or that they know what happened. One theory is that Natalie and Christopher were having an affair, Wagner found out about it, got mad, and pushed her off the yacht. Now, Wagner seems to be the prime suspect, but many people think that Walken knows exactly what happened. I mean, he barely even talks about the case, and on the rare occasion that he did, he would call it an accident, and also he was absent from the documentary about her. All I'm gonna say is someone knows something. I'm getting the vibe that Walken knows what happened and maybe he just feels guilty about it. In our second spot, we have Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron actually had a very traumatic upbringing. Her dad struggled with alcohol addiction and would constantly threaten Charlize and her mom, Gerda. He would never physically hurt her, but he would hurt Gerda. One night in June of 1991, he got angry and fired shots at both of them. During that altercation, Gerda ran and grabbed her own handgun that she had kept hidden and shot him back. Her shots killed him while Charlize watched it all unravel. In the end, it was declared self-defense and Gerda never faced any charges. But think how traumatizing that must have been for her to see her mother shoot and kill her dad as a teenager. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Ashton Kutcher. Now, I never knew this, and I was incredibly shocked when I found out about it. But on February 21st of 2001, Ashton Kutcher went over to his then girlfriend's house, Ashley Elrin. The two had planned on going to a post-Grammy party, but when he knocked on the door, there was no answer. That's because Ashley was dead on the floor of her home. She had been stabbed 47 times by a man named the Hollywood Ripper. He was responsible for the death of up to 10 women. As a result, Ashton Kutcher lost his girlfriend very suddenly and in a very traumatic way. He was also scared that he was going to be a suspect in the murder investigation since his fingerprints were on her door, but he never was. But he did have to testify in court.
And at number 10, fake relationships. I think at this point it's clear that most Hollywood relationships are faked for PR. Occasionally these fake relationships actually turn into real love, but most of the time these fake couples split as soon as the movie comes out, making it painfully obvious. One of the most obvious cases of this was the on and off again relationship between Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart during the Twilight days. These two would always be in a relationship when their newest movies were dropping, but then a few weeks after the release, they would break up. Since they split almost immediately after the final Breaking Dawn movie was released, it's clear that it was all a lie. Also, the pair looked so uncomfortable when they were together, and now that we see what they look like in a happy relationship, it's clear that they weren't in one. And at number 9, paid paparazzi. If you've ever wondered why some celebrities look amazing in paparazzi photos while others don't, it's because a lot of celebrities hire their own paparazzi to make sure they never look bad in a photo. The most recent celebrity to get called out for using this tactic was Addison Rae. While Addison was out in New York, she happened to get a ton of great photos of herself out and about in the city, and Page Six called her out for tipping off the paparazzi about her location so she can get a ton of good pictures. Page Six called it, quote, a move straight out of the introductory course at the Kardashian Institute of Advanced Fame Grasp. Apparently, Addison specifically wanted good photos of her outfits so that she could become known for her style. This move has long been used by the Kardashians back when they were up and coming, and now it seems that Addison is taking tips from her new friends. And at number 8, fake bodies.
It's no secret that almost everyone in Hollywood has had some work done. Usually it's minor things like Botox and fillers to maintain youthfulness, but some celebrities went through major changes before making it big, and these cosmetic procedures were the reason that it all happened. Apparently it's an open secret that celebrities will change their bodies to adapt to the times to maintain marketability. But the worst part is that most celebrities don't own up to these big changes, so fans will think these people are effortlessly perfect, and it starts to impact the everyday person's self-esteem. One of the most common procedures seems to be a nose job, and most celebrities that are deemed au naturel have had it done. Blake Lively, Scarlett Johansson, and Jennifer Aniston are just some of the celebrities that fans are convinced had nose jobs, but they will never admit it to fans who think it's all elite genetics. And at number 7, award show corruption. Many fans assume that Oscars and Grammys are given to those who truly deserve it, but once you pull back the curtain, that's really not how it works. And an open secret is that anyone who wants to win one of these awards must campaign for it and basically bribe the judges. This can be in the form of actual money or things like vacations and expensive gifts. Back in 1981, actress Pia Zendora won the Best Newcomer award for her role in the movie Butterfly. It was a shock to everyone until it was exposed that her husband paid off the voting members to ensure that she won, and over time the practice did not get better. In 2011, publicist Michael Russell sued the Hollywood Foreign Press Association for firing him. He was trying to expose the corruption with the award show, and they didn't like that. The parties settled the dispute out of court. And at number 6, cheating. Movies often take months to film. That's long, grueling hours away from family and friends, stuck with the small same group of people. Because of how it all works, movie sets are breeding grounds for extramarital affairs, especially if you're spending a lot of time with your love interest in the movie that you're hugging and kissing all day on set. There are truly too many examples to name, but there's a solid chance that one of your favorite actors cheated on their spouse during the filming of a hit movie. The most famous are Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Kristen Stewart and director Rupert Sanders during the filming of their project. And obviously, this happens a lot more than it's reported.
In at number 5, Daniel Radcliffe. Where does the time go? It feels like only yesterday that we were watching the adventures of Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Although because we were so engulfed in following Daniel Radcliffe bring this character to life, we failed to notice when he grew up. Not only that, but his confession that he had a drinking problem was sadly something that no one wanted to hear about. Thankfully, he beat this in 2010, but the actor himself has revealed that he would show up to the set of Harry Potter still intoxicated from the night before. Daniel said that there were times during his teen years where he felt like he was being watched, and while admitting that most of that may have been in his own head, he still didn't know how to deal with it. During an interview with Off Camera, he said, "In my case, the quickest way to forget about the fact that you're being watched is to get very drunk." In an interview for The Guardian, he said that he turned to alcohol to cope with the pressure of fame and potential failure. And as I mentioned, he has been sober since 2010, but said that his friends played a big role in his recovery. Although he did reveal some pretty crazy stuff about being intoxicated while filming Harry Potter. Daniel said, "I can honestly say I never drank at work on Harry Potter. I went into work still drunk, but I never drank at work. I can point to many scenes where I'm just gone, dead behind the eyes." That really changes that movie series for me. In at number 4, Jackie Chan. There are very few actors in the world that have forsaken their health and safety like Jackie Chan just in order to do their own stunts. As a master of the martial arts, he's put his skills to the test both physically and comedically. Over the course of his illustrious career, he has injured himself countless times but somehow remains unfazed. It's most likely because Jackie grew up in a family of risk takers. His mother, Li Chan, was a drug dealer, and his father actually was a secret agent for the Nationalist Guard. His father ended up fleeing to Hong Kong after Mao took power in 1949, and his mother was forced to abandon her first 2 children due to extreme poverty. Jackie Chan's parents actually met in the most bizarre way possible, a reason for meeting that Jackie would keep quiet for many years. Li and Charles Chan met when he busted her for drug possession. He ended up taking pity on her and then just letting her go. I mean, what an origin story for this Hollywood superstar. In at number 3, Richard Pryor. More often than not, comedians have very tragic backstories, and that can certainly be said for the legendary comedian Richard Pryor. The actor and comic struggled with addiction throughout his life. He was married 7 times and even lit himself on fire once. However, his upbringing was even more of a personal struggle. Richard Pryor's mother, Gertrude, was a prostitute who worked out of his grandmother Marie's brothel. When Gertrude abandoned her son when he was only 10 years old, he was left in the hands of his abusive grandmother. Pryor's paternal side also didn't do him any favors. His father, Leroy, was a hustler and a boxer, yet despite his own demons and secrets, Pryor was able to turn his pain into comedy. In at number 2, 50 Cent. A lot of rappers talk about living a gangster lifestyle, but some of them actually do it. 50 Cent might seem egotistical and talk a big game, but the rapper has had a very tough childhood. The rapper, whose real name is Curtis Jackson, was born in Queens, New York, and his mother, Sabrina, was just 15 years old when she gave birth to him. Sabrina ended up turning to drug dealing to feed her son and became one of the most notorious drug dealers in the area. Unfortunately, she was killed in in an unexplained fire when Jackson was only 8 years old. Still, he would go on to follow in her footsteps with drug dealing and was even shot 9 times in May of 2000. At the age of 19, an undercover police officer had arrested Jackson for selling 4 vials of cocaine, and then his home was raided 3 weeks later. He was then sentenced to 3 to 9 years, and he went to a boot camp instead to get his GED, but at this time he was already rapping and took on the name 50 Cent, which actually was an original moniker of a Brooklyn crook from the 1980s. Bunch of secrets in there for you that you can read on an autobiography page. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Keith Richards. Nobody who started their career in the music business in the 1960s, and I mean nobody, has remained untouched by the glorious days of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This is especially valid for the musicians of the legendary rock bands, most of whom have admitted to having consumed all kinds of substances in their time. But none of those are as bizarre as the one that Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones is said to have sampled. In 2007, a magazine revealed that the 72-year-old guitarist once mixed his father's ashes with cocaine and then snorted him. The veteran of drug marathons was convinced that his father wouldn't have objected at all, and added that he went down pretty well. Many years later, Richards realized that being still alive after decades of drug and alcohol abuse was just pure luck. He also advised that others not follow in his footsteps and definitely abstain from snorting their parents.